Well, a very good evening to you, and thank you so much for joining us for this edition of Spectrum. We are coming to you live on Radio 1 FM 90, broadcasting from the Central Building here in the heart of our city, Kampala. But we're also live on our website, which is www.radio1fm90.com. On that website, there's an icon with the word Listen Live. When you click on it, you'll be able to listen to us from anywhere across this globe. Radio 1 is also live on the different radio listening apps, which can be obtained from the Google Store of your smartphone. We are also live on DSTV. Our audio channel there is 897. My name is Kenneth, Lukwago, your host. 2 ways to contribute to this discussion. One of the ways is to call in, time allowing. I'll open the phone lines for you to do so. But the quickest way is actually to send us a message via the WhatsApp line, 0703 090 090. Today we'll be looking at the UPDF's response to the UN report over supporting DRC rebels. Now, reports have persisted in both local and international media indicating that the Ugandan government is backing the M23 rebels, which are fighting across its border in DRC, causing a lot of havoc in that particular area. Now, these reports are as a result of information contained in a UN expert report who have warned that the rapidly escalating crisis in that region could trigger a wider regional war. Now, the well-armed M23 rebels have in the past been linked to Rwanda, but the UN experts have put forward what they think is evidence to suggest that the UPDF has also been giving considerable support to them through its forces conducting joint through the UPDF, who are already conducting joint operations with the DRC forces in the eastern part of the country. You should also remember that Uganda is part of the East African regional force deployed in the eastern DRC to restore peace there. And in the past, we were actually accused of plundering DRC resources and ordered by the International Court of Justice to compensate the DRC to the tune of $325 million. Now, my guest this evening will be telling us more about how they perceive these reports and also give us an account of what is going on in the efforts to actually pacify the eastern DRC under what we know as Operation Suja. Now, good evening. Thank you very much for joining us, Brigadier General Felix Kulayigye, the Defense Public Information Officer, who is also known as the UPDF spokesperson. Thank you very much for joining us.
You're welcome. And good evening, listeners.
Thank you very much for sparing time to be with us this evening. Well, Brigadier Kulayigye, these reports have persisted. They began about mid last month. At that time, we were talking about a leaked report. Now we have seen the information has spread to international, but also in local media. It's awash. And the reports are persisting that there is considerable evidence linking Uganda to the M23 rebels, and it's through you, the armed forces, that this support is actually being channeled. What will be your initial response to this report?
Can I be sure we are on the same page? There are 2 reports. The one of last month, and then the report made by the US government about the private sector concerns on the war. Which one are you referring to?
I'm referring to the UN Experts Committee report.
Now, I don't know whether I can describe them as experts. The little education I have requires one not to draw conclusions until you have spoken to all sides. Now, these so-called experts did not talk to us. That's number 1. 2, even when they spoke to one European that I know, because he told me, they spoke to him and he actually told them, you are following rumors. That's not true, because I know this region very well. And that gentleman has worked in Kinshasa, has worked in Kigali, has worked here, he has worked in Kenya. He knows this region very well. They ignored his information. Now, 3, unless Ugandans and the world have forgotten, you remember a drone full of gold that was that landed somewhere in Kivu. Where did it belong?
Well, we have no idea. Do you have some information?
No, it was a UN drone. It was a UN drone. So when a thief accuses me of stealing, who should be believed? 4. The region has time and time again established mechanisms to deal with the conflicts in Eastern DRC. If you may recall, the late Julius Nyerere began the mechanisms, the efforts to end the conflict in Eastern DRC. Even when you go on YouTube, you find the comments he made about that conflict, particularly in Kivu province. The late Nelson Mandela came on board after Nyerere had passed away, equally to see that there is peace in Eastern DRC. All these efforts were efforts of the region. And the key on this front was none other than President Yoweri Museveni. Now, the last effort that involved particularly, because previously that's how the term negative forces came up. The last regional effort, actually particularly Uganda's effort on M23 was in 2009, when our the then Minister of Defense, Dr. Crispus Kionga, was chairing the peace talks between the Kinshasa government and M23. Okay? So, before I reach that, and there are agreements that were reached between the two parties. I'm sorry, I want to give this historical background so that we read these things in context.
Okay.
There were aspects that were agreed upon by both the Kinshasa government and M23. So for that matter, M23 is a legitimate organization. Based on that, that's my understanding of conflict resolution. Once you accept to sit with the other party, they become now a legitimate partner.
Recognized
in the peace process. So, it's against that background that I want now to examine these allegations. Because of that, therefore, you have no reason to shun that organization, because they are not indictment. They have been recognized as parties to a conflict by the very country they are fighting. Oh, I had forgotten something else. Number 6, the whole world knows, those who care to know, that President Museveni is very, very key in trying to build the peace in the entire continent. In fact, if you may remember, when we deployed logistics and money to build roads in Eastern DRC, what was the purpose? To facilitate our traders. Because regional trade remains as the most biggest pillar now to help build our economies. Now, it can't be the same Uganda to support one side in a conflict. So, back then, we established what we called the tripartite plus mechanism. Tripartite, there were 3 countries, DRC, Rwanda, Uganda, and Burundi, that established this mechanism and has a monitoring team in Beni, even today, to monitor the conflicts, because there are about 100 plus fighting groups in Eastern DRC. And of those groups, the only group that is fighting for identity recognition is M23. Because they have been disenfranchised. Being told, go back to where? The history of the whole continent is such that communities were divided without minding where relatives have gone. In fact, one of our great artists, Stephen Dwanjezi, makes fun of the same, how a border was carried through a house, leaving the sitting room in one country and the bedroom in the other. So the first aspect was that the Kinshasa government recognized
M23.
Now, peace talks of 2009 actually led to signing of an agreement. And that's how, that time M23, many of the fighters were refugees camped or accommodated in one of our training schools in southwestern Uganda. After the agreement was signed, they were facilitated and handed back to DRC. Others went back. Others, however, refused to go back and fled. Now, what has changed? Why is M23 becoming an anathema when 15 years ago it was part of peace talks with the host government? That aside, come the accusations. As UPDF, we prefer a peaceful country called DRC for economic reasons, but also for selfish reasons, because instability in a neighbor's home will destabilize our country as well. So we have a stake in the peace of the DRC. Now, after the tripartite plus the peace talks of 2009, the ICGLR, International Conference
on the Great Lakes region,
is the one that sponsored that peace talk, the peace process of 2009. That process is still existing. It has not been disbanded. Then came the third effort, the East African Community Heads of States
Summit
that did decide to deploy an interventionist force in Kivu, North Kivu to be exact, to create an environment for political process. The mandate expired in December 2003. His Excellency Shekedi, in his wisdom, refused to renew the mandate. And we withdrew our forces. I've been made to understand, for him, he expected us to fight M23. But that was not in the mandate. You know, when you go for a peacekeeping or peace enforcement mission, there is a mandate and there are rules of engagement. Now, we are out. Sadiq came in. Why are these accusations coming now?
What do you think is the reason?
I will tell you. It's the Waganda who say, Omayogereze, takusuza kayanzuko. When somebody says you have gotten something to eat, we call it anything. The region has efforts towards ending this conflict. But the people who have benefited from an unstable DRC for ages are the ones talking about neighbors being the thieves. Where have Ugandans been? Are you aware there is a place in DRC no black man is allowed to reach? Democratic Republic of Congo, an African country, there is a place where a black person is not allowed to reach. And this fellows write this because they know Africans never do research, they never investigate, we feed on every garbage they write. I'm sorry to use that language, forgive me. But certainly we are not involved in supporting one side. Now,
there is an allegation that while the M23 were here in Uganda, they were actually supported to do even recruitment. There are some people who happen to be refugees from the DRC who were in some of the camps here in Uganda, in refugee settlements, who actually are providing evidence that there was massive recruitment and some of them refused to actually join the M23 and they rushed back to the DRC. And they are claiming that
what is the evidence?
They are claiming that we provided the M23 shelter, but at the same time allowed them to recruit, regroup, and then go back to the DRC well armed and equipped.
Providing a shelter, we can't apologize. It's according to the international law, the 1951 non-refoulement refugee law, which requires a member state of the UN not to send back people who are running away for their dear lives. So that's why we have no apology. But assisting them to recruit and arm, no.
Now, when you said these people were running away and they were armed, they were clearly known as rebels, and probably they came here with their guns.
No,
they are different. You can't treat them the same.
Can I tell you?
Like refugees. There
is everybody who comes from Eastern DRC is either received in Bunagana or Butogota, put in a transit camp, either in Nyakabande, mostly Nyakabande actually, and then transported to the refugee settlement that is run by UNHCR, United Nations Refugee something.
High Commission for Refugees.
High Commission for Refugees something. Thank you very much. So, if we are doing the arming and recruiting, then UNHCR is an accomplice, which is a UN body, by the way. So you find how shallow, not only in terms of depth, but even reasoning, this report can be. 6, you all know the UN has been having a so-called peacekeeping force in DRC.
MONUSCO.
MONUSCO is a recent name. There was another name before. And then they try to change the mandate as if the situation has changed. The Congolese have been burning their vehicles, attacking their convoys. You saw or you didn't see?
We have seen those pictures.
So don't you think this is trying to hide their shame? Why have they failed to help the Congolese stabilize? In fact, I can tell you what we gathered in Ituri, where we are in Operation Shujaa. The UN force was coexisting with ADF. They were neighbors.
All right. Now, earlier you stated that the region does recognize M23 as a rebel group that
plus the
DRC government.
Yes.
When was the last time one would say you were in contact with M23? Because this report suggests that M23 leadership, M23 rebels, are free to come in Uganda, use our airport, collect supplies, recruit, train, and go back into the DRC.
Where is the evidence?
Well, that's what the UN experts are saying.
Yes, but where is the evidence?
The evidence
saying is one thing.
The evidence has been presented to the UN Security Council, where probably you'll be asked to defend yourself.
Let me tell you this. I've told you, when a thief declares me a thief, I don't recognize him. I've told you, they have been, the UN group, force has been in DRC for how many years? Now, when they fail to stabilize the country, and then for us, we are pushing for a peaceful settlement, you come up with these wild allegations. Me, I am demanding for evidence, because I know we have not been involved in supporting one side against the other.
Another piece of
supporting a political process.
Another piece of evidence: UPDF military intelligence officers have been cited in the town of Bunagana since the late 2023 to coordinate with M23 leaders, provide logistics and transport to M23 leaders to M23 controlled areas.
In case you don't know, sir, Bunagana is like Busia. There's Bunagana Uganda and Bunagana DRC. So being in Bunagana does not imply that I'm supporting M23. I'm in my territory called Uganda. And indeed, where else should intelligence be if it is not at a crossing point where refugees are coming into the country? I mean, I'm afraid this is really an illiterate way of reporting things.
Now, Brigadier Kulayigye,
yes,
do we recognize the fact that M23 is part of the problem in Eastern DRC, and much as you're trying to pacify the area, they should also be held accountable?
No, that's dealing with symptoms. The problem of DRC to begin with.
Would you describe M23 as a negative force?
No.
Doesn't that imply that you recognize what they're fighting for?
Of course.
And therefore, indirectly, in support of their aspiration.
Aspirations, yes. And anybody who is Pan-African will definitely recognize the aspirations. Today, tell me, if you had declared the non-Ugandan, how would you feel? Please answer me.
Of course, I would feel bad.
And you would stop at that?
I wouldn't. I would push for my rights.
Thank you very much. These are Congolese Banyarwanda speakers. All right? Put in Congo by the colonialists, the British and the Belgians. Today you wake up and they say, go back to where? Because that would mean the entire Kivu, North and South, should be removed from DRC. That's dismembering the country. I can't go for that. So when you declare your nationals as non-citizens, and they are saying, no, we must be recognized because this is our country, you want me to declare them negative forces? Two, I have said in my preamble.
There is a government in DRC.
Yes, sir.
That you have bilateral cooperation with. You are working with them to pacify the eastern part of that country.
Yes.
There is a rebel unit that is fighting that particular government.
Yes.
And it's likely, like the UN are saying, once in a while you come across them. You come across their leaders. You know they are wreaking havoc against the DRC people, and you don't hold them accountable.
Can I ask?
So, who is your friend, the rebels or the government of DRC?
The Congolese people.
So, if the DRC government were to tell you to help them to deal with the M23, would you respond positively?
We have declined. It's not that it has not been done. And it's not a secret to the Kinshasa government. Uganda has made her position very clear. And I have told you, anybody who thinks M23 is the problem is illiterate. Have you heard of an outfit called Mai Mai?
I have.
Does anybody know what they are fighting for? I've told you there are about 100 groups that are fighting in Eastern DRC. Some are actually not fighting, they are simply doing the mining. 3, how do you explain the different airports in the jungle, in the middle of nowhere? Who lands there? Are they Congolese?
We could be landing there.
No.
We have had a history with DRC.
Our history is also very clear, and by the way, I would
we were held accountable in the international court.
Again, who is in the international court?
For looting minerals and other resources from the DRC.
Mr. Lukwago, again in your own language. Please. Why is it that when I get you red-handed, you refuse to answer me? The thieves who have been stealing in Congo are people from Europe and the Americas. UPDF goes in Congo and opens political schools. What does the political education tell you? It tells you the history of your country. It tells you the problems of your country and how you can solve them. The 3 issues are hated by the thieves in Congo. So we became the bad apple. They accused us in the ICJ. Who is in the ICJ? Is it Mulindwa or Byaruhanga? Please, Ugandans, wake up. Yes. You are dealing with the hawk, with the hyenas. And what don't you see? What has happened in West Africa? In Mali, to be exact, where, by the way, there was a UN peacekeeping force, there was an European force, there was a French force. But they were all deployed where they are on mineral deposits. Tunasirikanga, and they think we are foolish. When you read some of these things, I implore you as Ugandans, as Africans, cross-check. Here, on your street. When somebody is pickpocketing, they will shout, there goes the thief. Actually, they are robbing you here. This is exactly what these fellows are doing.
So you think this is a diversionary tactic?
I don't think I know it.
And if you have evidence against them that they are actually robbing and looting DRC, how come you have not put it forward?
To where?
Put them to shame.
Where?
put them.
When haven't we said it? I have told you. For us, what we did was to share with the Congolese what we call political education. And since that was opening the eyes of our Congolese brothers, we were declared the wrong people. In that war, what they call Africa's Great War, there are 6 countries involved. Of the 6, only Uganda met the cost of that war. The other countries, the war financed itself. Check it.
All right, Spectrum.
No one ever chose them. Why? Because they were like the thieves. They were also enjoying the resources the thieves were taking. So they are not a problem. The problem was us who are saying, watch, you are being robbed. To date. All
right, Spectrum on Radio 1 FM 90. My guest this evening, Brigadier General Felix Kulayigye. He is the spokesperson of the UPDF, but also the Minister of Defense and Veteran Affairs. He is here to talk to us about the UN experts report that says that Uganda has been supporting M23 rebels. The report will be subject of a discussion in the UN Security Council, according to the information that we have. When we return, we'll shift our gears and look at why Uganda insists on staying in Congo under Operation Shujaa. Are there any gains that are being made for this country? Stay tuned, Radio 1 FM 90. We continue. Well, thank you so much for staying with us on Spectrum, live on Radio 1 FM 90. We are looking at the response of the UPDF and the government of Uganda to the report of the UN Experts Committee that says that Uganda is supporting M23 rebels who continue to destabilize the DRC. My guest this evening is Brigadier General Felix Kulayigye, who happens to be the spokesperson of the UPDF and the Minister of Defense and Veteran Affairs. Honorable Brigadier Felix Kulayigye, even if I call you honorable, you were once a representative of the UPDF in Parliament, and once honorable, always honorable.
So I'm told.
You did say that the problem of M23 is not actually what many people are looking at, and you seem to suggest that there are so many interested parties, especially in the Eastern DRC, who are using the situation maybe to benefit. They do not want the war to end. So what is the proposal you think that can help to solve this problem in the DRC? We have had talks before. They seem not to have yielded.
Our issue with the international players as Uganda, as UPDF, is singling out one group when there are over 100 rebel groups in Eastern DRC.
Maybe I'll also put it to you. Why are they not singling out the other groups?
Thank you very much. Because the others have no political causes.
There must be evidence then that...
Listen to me, Mr. Lukwago. The others have no political programs. They have no political issues. This particular group has been disenfranchised. Check it. When we were fighting here, did they even recognize us?
Well, even the government here was saying you had no reason for fighting.
And
just
then?
Like you're saying the other groups do not have
reasons
for fighting.
If we had no reason, was this radio here at that time?
Well, it wasn't.
Are you aware
here
that even the newspapers that existed were closed?
It wasn't here, but there's a global trend where the media has been liberalized, and therefore certain things had to happen.
Please.
Even without the coming into power of the NRM or NRA.
If it has been globalized, why was it in Gabon that only one radio was functioning? And that's why they announced the coup. Gabon here. If it is the whole global trend. Who would start a radio anyway? I've told you the papers left. If you think I'm lying to you, fortunately, Muzebi Dansari is still alive. He owned the newspaper called Weekly Topic. One of the editors was Onyango Bo. He's still alive. The other one was Wafuro Gutu. He's still alive. Honorable. Ask them. The newspaper here, Sapoba Publications, was closed by the government of that time. Today, everybody fires off his or her mouth. Freedom of speech.
That doesn't mean entirely that the media is free in Uganda. That's a topic that we can debate on another day.
We can debate another day, and I want to give you a tip. Freedom does not mean you have no responsibility. We can continue.
All right. So what do you think will be the solution?
One, recognize the Congo crisis holistically. For starters, the Congo state was not given time to even start. The Belgians gave the Congolese people only 5 months to prepare for elections in 1960. How many? 5 months. At the time, they had only 3 university graduates. Only how many? 3 in that huge country you see, the size of Western Europe. That's the country that received independence. No wonder the late Patrice Lumumba, may so rest in peace, had to bring a sergeant who was on a course in Belgium to come and command the army. Sergeant Mobutu. No wonder the man ran down the country. A sergeant supposed to manage, not even to command, to manage 30 people. Now you are giving him a national army. Who did that? The very people who are writing these reports now. Yes. So what moral authority do they have? So one, deal with the problem holistically. 2, address institutional capacity building of the country. Because why these groups are operating, there are areas where the state is not felt. And the result of the existence of the state is for it to provide security for her people, for its people. Once that one is not there, then you will be challenged. Secondly, once the state loses monopoly over the means of violence, you see what happens there. So we must support the DRC government to build state capabilities. Yes. Don't forget, a whole UN Secretary General died in Congo. It's the only country where UN Secretary General died. What was here? 1960. Was UPDF in charge here?
It wasn't.
Why was UN there at that time? Conflict.
All right. How are we doing in terms of dealing with our problem from Eastern DRC, which is the ADF, through Operation Suja?
You had actually even hinted when you are introducing this part, why we insist on being in Congo. Use those words.
Well, there are some people who have said, get out.
I know. But those who have said, get out, do they know whether we achieved the objectives, first of all, that took us there? Although there is evidence that our going into Ituri has delivered peace dividends. You remember the attack at police station and Parliament Avenue? Those fellows were being commanded from DRC. 2, you had the whole population displaced. And the ADF was enjoying their cocoa, their coffee. Schools had been closed, churches closed. Schools are back in operation. Churches are free to worship. The people have gone back to their homes. They're harvesting their crops. In addition to we eliminating the commanders of the ADF. So the benefits of this joint operation with our DRC comrades are enormous.
All right.
Yes.
Do you recognize the ADF as a legitimate group that is fighting for a certain cause?
No. What is their cause?
Well, they have some issues. One of the things they say, they do not recognize the government of Uganda.
Why?
Given the manner in which it's governing its people.
No. The government was elected by the people. So you who is not recognizing it, are you the majority?
Could that be a problem? Maybe you not recognizing ADF as a substantial threat. People you can engage with.
Do you remember when it started? 1996. What was the cause then? They wanted to Islamize the whole of Uganda. I find that a problem as an individual Christian, because that's infringing on my freedom of worship. All right? That was then. When they came in, what were they doing? They killed everybody without discrimination. They recruited children into fighting. If you have forgotten, I did expose the 150 children we rescued in Buvuma Islands. Some as young as the age of 4. And you want to tell me those have reason to discuss? To discuss what? But if they come up with the proposals, I'm sure government will see to have negotiated with everybody. By the way,
that's what I was about to tell you.
This is the most negotiating.
You have held negotiations with many groups.
That's true.
And even compensated them, given them huge, substantial taxpayers' money.
You can say that again.
Or why can't
all
you
in the interest of peace?
Why can't you reach out to ADF?
How?
Because you seem to know where they are.
How?
You know where they are.
You know, we reached out those who requested to talk peace. Here, Amnesty has been given time and again Are you aware, Mr. Lukwago? Some of the individuals from UPDF who have given amnesty have gone back into rebellion in the same group. Because you are not dealing with the ordinary issues, you are dealing with ideological question. And I want to tell you, ideological issues are like a tribal ones. Ending them is never easy. Yes.
So no avenue for talks with
they
ADF.
They are not providing it.
You
and
should provide.
So who?
You.
When you don't ask for it.
You do not want the conflict to end?
When we want it to end, that's why we are there. You think we are happy in the jungles? Are we having a wedding party? No, we are not.
We have not had you announcing that, look, ADF, wherever you are, if you're the
which
leaders
announcing?
of ADF, please step forward.
You have,
let's end this conflict peacefully.
We have done that. In fact, in 1999, the president went on record and said, I forgave the ADF. 1999. It's on record. Go back and Google New Vision, you find that story. I forgave ADF. So which other olive branch do you want us to give? Our heads, so they cut them off? 2, they have been killing Ugandans. How I wish they were attacking UPDF, because there we are on equal terms. Are they equal terms even? But we are armed, they are armed. But innocent civilians, unacceptable.
So for how long will you be in the jungles of the DRC to pursue the people you say you do not understand? As
long as ADF exists and it's a threat to our people, we shall not give up.
All right,
we are very resilient. We fought LRA for 20 years. That also ended. We pursued them up to South Sudan, Central African Republic. So, as long as for peace, I may tell you and for the listeners, when we went to meet LRA leader Joseph Kony, my team leader was Dr. Wakana Rugunda. He's a witness. Ono Mao is a witness. Archbishop Odama is. OT threatened to kill us. And when I reported to my CDF, my soul rest in peace, what OT had threatened, these were his words, and I quote, my friend, for peace, any price will be paid. That time we were the price. That's how far we can bend. That time, we became the price. You wouldn't have had an archbishop in Igulu. You wouldn't have had a speaker of parliament called Olanya, who unfortunately has gone the Lord. You wouldn't have had a chief justice. Justice Owinudoro was with us. So what am I talking about? That this government listens to anyone who wants to talk. And we go a long way, not even sparing her people, its people rather, to make sure peace is regained.
All right. Let's look at the feedback that is coming in from the listeners. And we begin with Anthony, who says, good evening, Spectrum. UN is the highest looters in Congo. I was once in Bunia. Those are propagandas to ease their looting, all because of too many agreements in Congo. A man called Putin knows where a man putting on a shoe knows where it is paining him. The president of Congo appreciates UPDF presence in that country, and then why does UN use cheap blackmailing? They want the Congolese want the UN to actually leave their soil. That's a comment from Anthony there, who is supporting some of the comments that have come in.
He's not supporting me, he's saying you, he's giving you information.
Afande Kulayigye, thank you for the insightful discussion. Those people always have double standards where Africans are concerned, even in our own countries. Sad. That's a comment coming in from Moshira there, agreeing with you on that particular issue. We have a comment coming in from Fred, who is listening in from Gaza. This man called Felix Kulayigye has no substantial arguments against the UN report accusing UPDF of giving support to M23 rebels in the DR Congo. Can he stop his useless insults directed to the West and his misinformation? He is simply being defensive and combative without substance. Uganda has been fined to pay billions to the DRC government for having looted its resources. That's a comment from Gaza, from Fred there. Then we have another comment.
Now, Fred, which insult did I use? Which insult?
Well, he seems to suggest the way
you are my host. Which insult did I use? You know, when I'm speaking on air, I say things that I will be answerable to God in heaven. For me, that's what matters. Fred can misunderstand me if he wishes. It is his liberty after all. That's what democracy gives him. He's afraid to disagree with me even when he's wrong. Yes.
All right, we have another comment coming in from Benon Fred Twinamasiko, who says, could the general update us on the progress of the road construction in the DRC under Operation Suja? What percentage are they at? Thank you for the show. That's Fred Twinamasiko. They're interested in knowing how far you've gone with the infrastructure.
What is your money?
Then we have another comment from Dranith. Thanks, General Kulayigye, for the clear explanation. The local conflict can be solved easily without the interference of the white men. But I suggest you advise DRC government to concentrate their efforts to effectively destroy all airfields in the jungles of Congo so that the real thieves will fail to haul out their loot cheaply. That's a comment from Dranith there. Then we have another comment from Ariko Andrew, who says, Afande, but why must it always be Uganda that they keep blaming, not any other country? Yet Congo shares borders with very many other countries.
Have you ever seen a mango tree without fruits being stoned? Have you? Have you ever seen a mango tree without fruits being stoned?
Not at all.
That answers his question.
But I've seen monkeys on such trees.
Monkeys are only getting shelter. I'm talking of human beings stoning them. Because what is happening, Uganda is being stoned by human beings. Why? Because Uganda is a regional force.
In Uganda today, they are even cutting mango trees for charcoal and
primitivity.
Firewood.
Primitivity, but they don't cut the ones with the ripe mangoes. They don't. In my father's garden, we had 18 trees, so I know what I'm talking about. Yes.
All right, a comment coming in from Richard, who says, Brigadier General Felix needs to desist from the narrative of how many radio stations were here. The fixation is when is derailing progressive thinking and development. Felix still speaks like a rebel spokesperson and not a modern-day people's army mouthpiece. That's a comment from Richard there, who thinks you have never left your bush war days. That's a comment there from Richard. We have a comment coming in from...
Maybe also he has not graduated from the village mentality.
We have a comment coming in from Oketo Patrick Bonyo, listening in from Busega. The Congolese problem is political and economic imbalances, especially in the eastern region. Solution could be divide Congo into two states. Congo problem is also a Muzungu plundering Congo wealth, thus fueling conflict between militias, so don't trust those fellows. UPDF can also have their own share of blame in Congo, but majority is of the white man. That's a comment from Okello Patrick Bonyo. And Okello, if you might have heard in the background, you've been applauded by Brigadier Felix Kulayigye with a round of applause.
I want to differ from him on the question of dividing. Yes, because that one.
Some people have actually thought that.
I know they have. Maybe Ugandans may wish to know, if you allow me, Mr. Lukwago, that I'm the first person to enable two Congolese communities sit together to talk about their problems. When we were in Bunia in 2003, I was the director for information of the UPDF there. I organized a talk show on the radio called, it's actually UN radio, Okapi. All right? And I asked the leaders of the Lendu and the Hema, the dominant communities in Ituri, to sit and talk about their issues. The Congolese themselves told us it was the first time since the creation of the world or the earth that the two communities could sit together. So we have a positive legacy in that country. Yes.
All right. Let's look at the other comments that are coming in. We have a comment coming in from David, who says, what more authority does Uganda have to politicize the Congolese citizens? He says, kudos to Brigadier Kulayigye for being a good spokesman. That's a comment there from David there, who is asking, what more authority do you have to politicize, to actually teach the Congolese about politics? There's been a complaint about actually the government of Uganda removing political education from the syllabus, and you're talking about taking it to the Congolese, and probably that's the background.
One of the biggest mistakes bureaucrats have made, I will say it on air, was to remove political education from the syllabus. Yes. Mr. Lukwago, all your neighbors except the DRC have national service training. Were you aware? Were you? Kenya has a national service. Tanzania has a national service. Rwanda has a national service. Why? Why? And why is it that over the three countries, over the four now, when you put Uganda as the fourth, only a Ugandan is not ever proud of his country? Don't you see issues in Kenya today?
I was actually going to say that you're going to say of the 4 countries, only one is not making progress.
I said about political education. It's
Even,
what we were discussing.
even in political matters.
Yeah, no, political matters we are making progress.
We have good transition in Tanzania. We have it in Kenya, in Rwanda.
Politically, do you know the meaning of the word transition? What does it mean?
Well, we are seeing people moving from one leader to another.
That's not transition. That's handover.
The transition that Ugandans are looking forward to.
That's change of leadership, not transition.
Well, that is what has eluded us for
you
very many years.
You are misusing the word transition. Transition means you have had a temporary arrangement, okay? Now you have finally agreed on a permanent one. For example, in 2005 after the referendum, there was a transition from the movement system to multi-party. That's a transition. But if you want to change a leader, it's either handover of power or change of leadership. Number one. Number two, Mr. Lukwago. You see, I always don't encourage people to have their own nomenclature of things. Okay? This country holds elections every 5 years. Okay? That's number one. Number two, these elections always have a winner. Okay? Number three, the moment you went to multi-party, every party reserves the right to present their best candidate. Therefore, if the ruling party keeps bringing back Mr. Museveni a winning captain, you don't blame the captain. Blame yourselves who have failed to produce a formidable team to challenge them. For us, we are watching, because I'm not allowed to have a political party.
Well, you may not be allowed to have a political party, but there are people out there who actually think you're partisan. I'm sure you've heard what some politicians have been saying. You take sides.
Can I ask?
And some people have even suggested you are not yet fully a national army. And those are not my words. I'm sure you've heard
I
about
have heard them. Don't worry, Mr. Lukwago, you don't have to apologize.
I'm not apologizing in any
so
way. I'm just putting them to you.
If I may ask, who has done a referendum to know which officer or soldier supports where? Has anybody done it?
Well, action speaks louder than words, so they say.
Which action? Which action?
The heavy-handedness with it, how you respond to the opposition.
No.
There have some opposition parties have actually implicated you in shooting and killing their supporters.
It's unfortunate some of our people have been killed.
Some have implicated you in trying their supporters in military tribunal, when you know very well
we
that
have no tribunal, we have a military court.
Military
court, yes.
Well, are those not evidence enough to show that maybe some people question your integrity as an army?
As you are questioning our integrity, why don't you also question political leaders that don't respect the law? Yeah. And by the way, you reap what you sow. When you sow chaos, and assuming tomorrow you are in leadership, don't you think this very chaos will destabilize you? It's our responsibility to ensure that the nationals of this country will carry out their rights uninterrupted. All right? Now, if you want to use the political clout you have to actually disorganize other Ugandans, just simple example. Down here you have a market, Nakasero. And somebody tells you, I want to hold my rally in Nakasero market. In the market, 3 items are there. The seller, the buyer, and the commodity to be bought. So you who is taking a political rally, are you one of the 3? That's
the work of the police, not the army.
But when the police asks us to come, Article 209 requires us to join them. And when we do, even am I not a general? If the commander KPMG, Kampala Metropolitan, KPM, not KPMG, KPM, request for support and I'm deployed, I will be under his command.
Well, that's not the case, according to a recent report, which were deliberated on about violence and elections. They actually say when the police invite you, you actually take over.
That's what the police said?
That's what the report said.
Me, I will only listen to the police because they are the people who got support. Number two, I have been party to managing at least 3 elections in this country. 2006, 2010, 11, and 2016. I have been involved in managing the security aspect of elections. So I know what I'm talking about. We always go to support the police.
All right.
But for me, I think prevention is better than
cure.
Let all of us follow the law. I'm telling you, we are not mad to unleash any contact with an individual that is peaceful.
All right. Brigadier Kulayigye, we are fast coming to the end of this show. I will give you an opportunity to give your closing remarks. What would you like to say, tell Ugandans as we leave the studio today?
First of all, I would invite Ugandans to interest themselves about African history. Because if you don't know your history, you can't understand where you are, and you are not able to predict where you want to go. That's a fact. And therefore, if you have no history, you don't know your history, you have no roots, it becomes very easy to put you down. When you know your history, then you will understand why certain things are happening in the continent, on the continent, and in the region. 2, political education is oil for the progress of society. So I would invite us to advocate for it being reintroduced in schools. Okay. Lastly, I thank Radio 1 for giving me the opportunity to answer these issues. All right. And I congratulate you for surviving in the field all these years. The others, as you know, who have wound up. All right. Yes. Let me also thank you very much, Brigadier General Felix Kulayigye, for actually sparing time to come here. Next time I invite you, I want us actually to talk about the role of the UPDF in the election process. I'm at your service. We're preparing for the 2026 general elections. I'm at your service. People will be interested to hear what you will be doing then. And I will be coming with a request. All right. With that, we come to the end of Spectrum. Thank you very much, dear listeners, for actually tuning in, but also contributing your views to this discussion. Tomorrow, 2 hours of analysis of the top events of the week with me on Spectrum Extra. Until then, it's a good night.